Hello and welcome back. We are glad that you took the time to join us once again for another Microvellum Live session. So today we are going to be talking a little bit more about product data. From time to time we release new or refined product libraries, expansions perhaps to the current product library with new products, new categories. But if you're like most users, you've probably created your own custom library of products and you can't realistically redo your library every time we release something new. So we've invited Lenny back, one of our product data experts here at Microvellum, and he's going to show us how to cherry pick from these new libraries we release, finding those items that you want to use to expand your own library. So let's get right into it. How's it going today, Lenny? Welcome back.
Hello, hello. Okay, so yeah, like Clay said, good introduction. Thanks, Clay. Today's topic is kind of demonstrating how you can identify something that you see in one library and how can I get that moved over into your own library? So kind of cherry picking, if you will. And that's kind of what I did a lot. So before I joined Microvellum, I would do this all the time at the company I was working at. We had our own library. It was very customized, which is what a lot of people end up doing. And so I was not about to start over with a new library, but I was often kind of frustrated. I would see new libraries come out, new products, and I really wanted some of those features. And so for me, I just would roll up my sleeves and get in there and kind of figure it out. And that's kind of where my stubbornness and persistence kind of paid off. So for this demo, I was trying to decide, to demo a single product, a single feature. If I go fast, I think I can probably do both. My hope for this session isn't about the specific feature itself, how to add it in. It's more, I kind of want to familiarize some of you with how to, how to navigate in and out of the different areas, and perhaps give you a little glimpse on how powerful the data can be once you have a basic understanding of where the things are and how to really leverage Microvellum to get it to do almost anything. So if you're looking at my screen here, what I've got going on, it is kind of helpful if you have the ability to have two versions of Microvellum open at the same time. At the very least, one version of, say, Toolbox OEM, maybe on one screen. And then if you don't have another OEM, you can have Microvellum Production on the other. I happen to have two versions of OEM, so 2019 and 2020. So I'm just going to simulate. Let's pretend we have two monitors going on here. So on our help side here, which is about to change, by the way, but for now, this is where it is. We have release notes, we have downloads, libraries, and you can kind of see what's new. If I go into into our release notes of the libraries, I can kind of see what's interesting. It looks like we have a new trolley product, so maybe I'm interested in that. Here they added some new data to our construction tokens that counts hardware usage. Oh, that's interesting. Let's pretend let's say we want that. I want to be able to count how many cam locks or dowels, that I use in a project. And by the way, this is documented here. There's an article. Here's the title of it that shows how this kind of works. So in my 49 library, which I have on the left, let's pretend this is our existing library, doesn't have that feature. And I threw in a product here that doesn't have a subassembly, so it's a little bit quicker. So if I look at my token, I'll see, all right, so here's Jamie, we looked at tokens yesterday, so you should be familiar with this if you saw yesterday's. But I don't see any indication about counting hardware, whereas in my new library, so let's say, forgot to show you that. If you come up to downloads, and you go over to this component cabinet library, you'll see, at least in North America, we don't have this at this point for the Australian market. Australian market is a little bit different process, but for North America, we've always posted the libraries. So you can see, you can even go back to an older build, but you can see the most current one is the 50.5. So let's pretend we downloaded that. You can download this, install it. It's not going to overwrite anything of your current library. It's going to keep it totally separate. It's this totally separate configuration, so it should be pretty safe, to install. So that's what I've done here on the right. Let's look at this product here. I'm kind of A/B comparing the two. And sure enough, I see some extra information here. See the way these tokens work, you've got the name of the token and then a bracket. That's like help text, if you will. That's helpful information about that token, right? This is left, that's right. And over here, it's the same token, but we have like a little, what do you call that character? A little squiggly bracket there that has information that's basically, what hardware. So in this case, a dowel. So if this was a cam lock, we would have the name of a cam lock. If this was a screw token, we would have like a wood screw or a com format, right? So let's, for the sake of this demonstration, let's say we just want to do that. So I like to use good old trusty notepad, to have a little notepad here. Well, that was interesting. Windows has a deal where if you jiggle your mouse, it kind of minimizes it. No, thanks Windows. That was really helpful. Thank you. I'm going to put it back here. Okay. Don't jiggle your mouse. So yeah, I already kind of did this to speed up time, but I took a snippet of what the old token was and what the new token is. So for example, how you can do that is drill into here. And so really this token is all about that, right? So if the token is turning on, which it is, then it's that. So I just copied that to my clipboard, or I pasted that to my notepad, because that's what I want. And then over here, which is this guy. So that's my destination. So what I like to do is, before I go hog wild and, spread this across my whole library, it's always good to have a sample project with a sample product that you can experiment with. So that's what I'm going to do. I could paste it in here, but instead of using part properties, there's a huge benefit if you come into this Mr. Spreadsheet here. So let's look at these tokens. Oh, helps if I'm on the right row, right? There it is, sorry. So here's one of our construction tokens, okay? So the nice thing about coming into the spreadsheet is you can do this. If you Control F, I can find the existing token, and then I'm going to grab the new formula, which is what I found in the new version, and paste it in there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do find all. And it's kind of cool. If you look here, wow, look at how many different places it found it. So here's all of the different locations that it found. So there's a lot of tokens that are using this, and it's all the same. Notice I'm not doing a find on the whole formula. I'm just taking out the snippet that matters. And that's what's cool about it. One thing you can do in this. So I'm just going to replace all. And you notice, uh-oh, I have a name error. Okay, well, that's kind of makes sense, because it's looking for something that this library doesn't have, which is in my H. So apparently there's a new lookup table in this new library that my old library doesn't have, right? So let's compare that. So I'm gonna close now. I'm not gonna worry about that name error just now. I'm gonna close, and I'm probably gonna lose my dowels. Yep. So that makes sense because there's a name error. So let's figure out what's going on here. Let's close here. So in my 50, I'm going to come up to the spec groups. Let's have a look at that H workbook. So H stands for hardware. Okay, so there's some lookup tables here. Let's compare that to our existing library. Notice we're even missing some worksheets here. So this has hardware properties is the last worksheet. So we need to add a couple of the new worksheets. Apparently those crazy convoluted data developers at Microvellum have added an additional worksheet. Well, how do you do that? If you come up to Workbook Explorer, we're in the H, and here it is. So I'm gonna just right click here and say, let's add a new worksheet. Actually, we want 2 of them, and then we're gonna rename them. Prompts and all right, so that's now the same. Of course, they're empty. So to bring this content over, I think mainly what I need are these variables here, the cam fitting, screw fitting, dowel fitting, you know, but who knows, maybe I might need some of this other stuff. So I'm just gonna grab everything and paste it in. Now, one thing that's easy to forget is there's data, but then there's defined cells, and it's kind of 2 different things, right? So I've brought in the data, but if I notice over here, if I click on this box or this area, see how I have defined cells? So I want to get those defined cells over here. And I'm kind of lazy. I don't like to do things one by one. So here's a little trick. If I want to do all of these at once, you highlight all of them like that. And then you say insert, define name from selection. I'll pause right here for those people watching the recording who want to take a screenshot. But that is something you want to, if you do a lot of data development, you kind of want to memorize that one. So you do that and you just say, yep, left column, done. So now all of these are now defined, which is important. They need to be defined so that formulas can look at them, right? So that's done. Now let's take a look at our lookup tables. So these lookup tables are cool. The idea here is, you know, right now we just have one example dowel and one example screw, but you can add a whole variety of screws, a whole variety of dowels, and a whole variety of cam hardware, and it ends up being a combo box list that you can pick from. I'll show you that in a sec. So again, we just want to copy that content to our library like that. Let me see, I'm going to test, did it do it? If you highlight the color area by using your shift and then arrow keys, you can go like that, which is really quick. I'm noticing it did bring in the defined name. It's interesting. It doesn't always happen. So in case it's not defined, here's a little trick. If you highlight this area and see how it illuminates what it's the defined name, and you just go copy, and then you can come into this area and holding down shift, you can arrow down to the table, right click, define a range, put in the name. Yeah, all right. So that's how you can quickly transfer a lookup table, okay? So I think we're done cherry picking that content out of the 50 library. Keep in mind, this is just a project on the left. So if I end up wanting to keep that in my library, you would come into this H, right? And then you would say save to template. And that would bring it from this project to the template. So all future jobs will have it. But for the sake of the demonstration, we're just going to work on this project. So let's see if this helped our poor little cabinet here. I bet you those dowels, yep, see the dowels came back because the we're now getting an evaluation on that, on those tokens, which makes sense. So now we have an H dowel fitting and an H lookup table. All right, so I'm feeling pretty good. I didn't do the other side. Copy, paste, copy, paste. Again, I took a shortcut just for the sake of the demo. Find all, replace all, and see how it added the that extra little piece of information there. By the way, some people may be watching this. If this doesn't work, like if you go to create a work order, maybe I'll do that here, and you're not getting an accounting of the dowels, check with your account manager, because something I just realized recently, this is behind a specific module that you should have access to. If you talk to your account manager, I'm pretty sure everybody has access to it at this point in time. I don't know if that will always be the case in the future, but as of right now, you have access to the costing. It has to do with like the costing reports or something of that nature. Maybe we'll go ahead and test that. So I'm gonna just save and close. So to test it, let's just make a quick work order. Okay, process. A lot of hardware you can add just by adding it to the hardware area of your product. But when it comes to like a token, you know, where you don't really know how many dowels are necessarily going to appear, or depending on how big the cabinet is, I don't know how many cam locks are going to appear. So it's very difficult to write a formula to give us an accounting. But Microvellum, in the code of the program, it knows. So that's why we kind of needed to make a feature. So if I have a look at my hardware, whoops, wrong one, Lenny. Ah, sorry, I went too fast. Hardware report. Okay. So this should show us, of course, there's no door on this cabinet, so it's kind of a simple example, but we have 22 little dowels for that one cabinet. So it worked. If you get a 0, then yeah, that's what I'm saying. You want to put in either a ticket, you support. We need to get your key. It needs to be added to your key, which I think is under. Where is it at? Yeah, I think here's your modules. I forget exactly which one it is, but it has to be an active. I forget, one of these has to be active. Anyway, I digress. So the next question is, or part of this session is, all right, so I like this, I'm happy with it. Now what? I have 5,000 products in my library. I'm not going to sit here and go through every single one and do that, right? Enter Library Designer. Let's see here. Let's see. What is that visual control thing? Interesting. So, Mr. Library Designer, again, this is not a session on Library Designer per se, but it does have to do with the topic, because this is the tool that you're going to want to use to spread that little snippet of find and replace across everything. So again, not a, we don't have the time to get into setting this up, but there's documentation on the help site for how to set this up. But let's say you have a clean working Library Designer, it's all set up. This search here is tremendous. So you come in here, and just like we did in the spreadsheet, you can do find and replace. And we're going to search. Now, you kind of want to think about, sometimes you want to search the whole cell, which in this case is not the whole cell. The whole word would be like this, like, because that's the whole word. And that'll prevent it from finding lookup table dowels 2 or some other continuation. We just want any part. Do a search and let's see what it finds. It's looking through a lot of data. All right, so 37 occurrences but each one of these occurrences can represent a lot. So like, for example, this, let's see, it's all fixed shelves. So that's this, there's a bunch of subassemblies that have that token. Where's the carcass? Yeah, so like here's the toe kick tokens. And as I click around, I mean, there are just hundreds and hundreds of locations that I did not have to find. You know, you can just say, tick them all off here, like that, and then do replace, and it goes through and replaces them all. And we would do the same for, let's see, the right. I'm running really short on time. I did want to show you how to bring in a product too. Search and tick them all, hit replace. So now what that does is that just updates Library Designer. And when you're satisfied with, when you feel like you're done, then you click this commit. And now it's merging all of those locations in your workbooks. Now it's actually behind the scenes opening up each workbook and making the change and closing it all the blink of an eye. So let that happen. So while that's finishing up, the other thing that we had noticed in here was that, what was that product? Oh, the trolley. They had added a trolley product, and let's say I'm interested in about the trolley product. So in version 50, if I go to my draw, miscellaneous. So this is a kind of a new product. It's, you know, maybe something you want to put some casters on it and put your parts on. I want this product in my library. Okay, so how do I get that? We'll look at that next. So our library's been updated. So let's have a look at product. Let's go to an upper cabinet. So we have a 49 library, and I'm going to prompt it and look inside. Well, what do you know? There it is. It now has it. So every product in this library has that. Pretty sweet. So I'm going to call that done. I mean, there may be some other, you know, other tokens that you want to certainly test that maybe I missed here in this demonstration. Okay, so with Database Explorer, so I'm in my 50 library here on the right. I'm going to drill into here. Uh-oh, I must have practiced before. You didn't see that. Okay, pretend you didn't see that. So here is the trolley. Okay, is everybody ready? Hold on to your seat. This is going to be intense. You click it and you drop it. So now I've pulled that out of my database. All right, so now on my library, which is on the left, I'm going to kind of do the reverse. I'm going to open up my, whoa, not that one. Open up my Database Explorer. Find Mr. Trolley. There you are. Let's see, put it where, find where you want to put it. If you have that JPEG, it'll automatically assign the JPEG to the product. So that when it comes in, we have an image there with it. Yay. All right, so I'm going to expand my 49 library here. Now, I think I talked about this in my last thing I did, where it's not going to appear because of a refresh dealie. So I'm just going to do this. And that forces it to refresh so that when I go into my miscellaneous, there's the trolley. Hi, trolley. It's kind of a cool little product. Now, sometimes it's going to be, there may be some name errors, right? So you want to, first thing you want to do is just check, make sure there's no name errors. If you do see a name error, it's most likely because it's using like a new variable. Like let's say that was a new global. So you might have to bring in a global or two or a material file pointer. But once you do that, it'll just start working. Okay, so I'm going to have a look at, are there any questions? Someone had a question about how do you get the item number going at an angle? Yeah, that's all that is a new block. We changed, there's a new annotative style block. So I don't know, that just seems to be simpler. If you look at a side view, it's just angled, so that way it works both in a top view and a front view. You have the item number, so, and it's annotative, which is another topic. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Looking over my notes here, yeah, definitely keep up with your sandbox project before you do library designer. Be careful if you're learning, right? But I think I'm good.
Well, great. Well, thanks for that. We appreciate you joining us and taking the time to show us that recommended process.
Cool beans.
So yeah, these are steps that users can take to expand your own data, using the find and replace tools like Lenny was showing, working with the lookup tables, library designer, and some of the other areas, database explorer, the simple drag and drop feature there. That's pretty nice. So if you're working on a project like this, or have taken on the task of updating your library and you would like some help, maybe some additional guidance from somebody like Lenny or another one of our service techs, just let us know there in that poll, and we will follow up with you and get you pointed in the right direction. So that will do it for today. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you've learned something new, something to help you to continue to streamline the way you work. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and we will catch you again in our next Microvellum Live session.